What's going on, everyone?
What's
Woo!
good?
What's going on? This is episode 24. Okay, let's do this. Um, so you already know um today we're gonna have a special guest, but of course, introduction time. I'm not wasting no time. We got TC.
What's good, everybody?
Woo, look at his screen all clear. Let's go.
Yes,
All
sir.
clear. We got
Yes, sir.
Nyron.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on, I'm ready. All right, so introduction time. Time not being wasted. So we're going to talk about ammonium sulfate.
Mhm.
We always talk about ingredients. So what we talked about? We talked about a lot of stuff. Sheesh,
A lot
it's
of
a
herbal
lot of
stuff.
ingredients. As soon as
Yeah.
we get to episode 100, it's probably going to be a whole 1,000 ingredients. You know what it
Mhm.
is, but ammonium sulfate. So what is
Okay.
it? It is a preservative, an inorganic salt found in bread, bagels, bakery, and English muffins. So it
All
is
right.
mixed with yeast. I mean, obviously because it's bread. And the bakery, um, people people like the smell of it, and it's good. It's the
Mhm.
strength of dough condition and the strength of the dough. It's a rich source of nitrogen and ammonium sulfate. In addition, is the role of the pH control in the flour of and baked goods. The volume that builds up the consistency of it, it improves the shelf life.
Mhm.
So the ingredients of it, it improves, like, the yeast growth and the survival of it. And it also does
Okay.
fertilizer too. I don't gotta share my screen for this. So
So this is a good salt.
let me hold on. I got you. I got you.
All right.
The
All right.
cause now the cause of ammonium sulfate is it causes irritation,
Oh, not a good salt.
diarrhea.
All right.
I don't know if this is true. This is what I'm looking up. Don't quote me. Um, it's just like, to be honest with you, a lot of things that we talk about, I'm starting to like really like just dislike. I really dislike what's the word? I really dislike scaring people. I don't want to scare people and like, oh, okay, this is ammonium sulfate. So is this good? This is bad. Like, this is something you could just Google. So my honest opinion, there are breads that are replaceable with healthy options, like gluten free.
Okay.
So, you know, let's go on the next one. I don't gotta share my screen for this too. I'm gonna just break it down with my words. BHT and BHA. This is in cereal, chips. This is in anything like canned goods and dry foods, right?
So
All
basically,
right.
the
So
process.
yes, it's processed. BHT and BHA, which stands for, give me time. Uh butylated, 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 hot hydroxy in and insulo. You can TC.
I
Tell
think
me if
you
I'm
deserve an award for the attempt. You deserve an award for the attempt.
Yeah,
like
pretty
like
much.
any words. Like, let me tell you something. Any words that is really tough to sound out, that's how you know it's bad for you.
Sounds
Seriously,
like a whole term.
pretty much. So it's like they banned this ingredients in other countries in Europe. I'm serious. Japan, like, you could look it up. But in United States,
Of course.
It's still in the United States in the grocery stores.
Be fair.
You got
Approved
it.
by the FDA, huh?
There you go. There you go. So the United States is the greatest country in the world, quote unquote, but they are not going to ban this. In other countries, it's banned, but is a reason why it's banned also, because yes, it's bad for you. It's in we used to eat these when we was kids, the cinnamon toast crunch and all of that. Yeah. So let me tell you, BHA, what is it? Butylated, and the
Okay.
H stands for hydroxide, and the A stands for anisole. I hope I'm saying it right. So, and for BHT, butylated hydroxy toluene. Like I said, they are in cereal, chips, and other dried food. And it helps their fats stay fresh longer. That's the whole point of the BHA and the BHT. It's oh my god, and antioxidants. I hope I'm saying it right.
Antioxidant.
Yeah, there you go. Antioxidants. See what I'm saying? So, which means they can protect all the compounds from damaging effects and oxygen exposure. This is in processed foods. It's a food additives. So it's designed to enhance flavor. So the only thing similar that's really healthy about it is the vitamin E, even though it's a healthy preservative. That's it. So if you see a vitamin E ingredients in the food label, it's just a healthy version for BHT, which is that's just to mix, like, the freshness and stuff.
So that's really informative. I didn't know there were such thing as healthy preservatives.
I get it, because even though it is sketchy, all this is for the preserve shelf life for the foods like in supermarkets. That's all it really is for. I really think
Pretty much
looking for the people, like the healthy aspect, it's just to preserve.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just that's all preservative is. So
that's
it's
why
like
cereal can sit there as long as it can, because that ingredient.
Pretty much. So it's like, once you open the package and like the exposure, it's not supposed to have oxygen like air, like us, like humans, animals, we supposed to have air, oxygen, that gives us life. But as for like something like processed foods, canned goods, that you can't give it air. So it's like, how you get the bag and just push, like you in the bag or whatever, if you get what I'm saying. So like that's how you can tell, like it's for to long an extension life, because if you give it oxygen for a long period of time, it's going to taste sour. You feel what I'm saying? Then after that, when you eat it, be like, yo, why does it taste sour of my taste bud? So take it as like you see things as processed foods that you bag up and you box them or something. And if you give it air for a long period of time, they're gonna go bad, pretty much. And BHA and BHT are found in petroleum, and their main thing is just like you said, TC, it preserves food. That's pretty much it. The cause of it is it gives allergic reactions, and it can affect your behavior. So that's part of the reason why like other countries banned it. And research is saying cancer.
Cancer?
Yeah, research is saying it's linked to cancer. So
it's a carcinogen.
Pretty much. Yeah.
All right.
That's pretty much it. Any comments, concerns? Y'all can go for it.
When are you gonna find an ingredient that's actually like healthy? I feel like every ingredient we mentioned kills me.
Fruit.
So we mentioned fruit. So if you go, to the other previous ingredients, we mentioned fruit. We've mentioned how greens healthy where greens is good for you. Apple cider vinegar. We did mention black seed oil.
Turmeric.
Black seed oil.
So we did mention turmeric. We did.
Okay.
I think we did mention limes, lemons, all of that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what? Just for you, Nyron, we're gonna talk about healthy in the introduction. We're gonna talk about something healthy in the next introduction.
All right. So what kind of cereals could I buy that doesn't have the ingredient that you mentioned?
I mean, you asking us, it's your body.
Okay. All right.
It's your body.
If you want recommendations, I know like the Kashi brand. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. The Kashi brand is good. It's expensive, but it's good.
Is it black owned?
Black owned. Sure. Do we have black owned cereals?
Like organic black owned cereal?
No. I'm wondering. Like, I'm gonna look that up real quick.
Right.
So really, for me, my recommendation is what is it? The 365 brands. The when you see the numbers in like the Whole Foods, 365. That they're good for like cereals and chips and stuff.
All right.
Yeah, if you really want to get to your balanced diet and all that. So yeah.
No, it's supposed to be a hot girl summer, man. I'm trying to get ready.
So I found a black-owned cereal. It's vegan, black-owned.
Okay.
Guess the name.
We Be Free cereal.
Huh?
No.
Proud Puffs.
Proud Puffs.
Wow. Proud Puffs.
All
right, we gotta
read
that. We gotta read the labels to that.
A chocolate flavor vegan cereal formed in the shape of the black fist.
Oh
wow.
Okay. There you go.
Apparently, this was created during the pandemic. So I gotta read the rest of this.
So that means it was last year it was created.
Well, this was updated February 14th of this year. So
okay. All right. Yeah. So they probably created it like last year, and then after that it was,
the draft, everything,
Yeah. Anything else before we get to the podcast?
All right, I'm good.
Drink water, people. Drink water.
Facts. Even though we did talk about water in the previous episodes. So yeah.
It's about to get hot out here.
It is gonna get hot. You're already.
Nobody trying to smell your armpits sweating and all that kind of stuff. Be hydrated, okay?
Be hydrated. I like that.
Already. All right, y'all. Let's get it. Let's get to the guests.
Hey, it's Nikki Billions with Nikki Billions Bling Boutique. I'm an independent fashion consultant. Allow me to help you accessorize your next event. My pieces range from statement pieces to simple pieces to bling pieces to pearl pieces. Allow me to help you give them something to talk about. Visit my website. It's www.paparazziaccessories.com/Nikki Billions.
What is going on, y'all? Okay.
What's up, everybody? What's good?
All right. We got a special guest. Let's go. This is episode 24. Let's go. All right. Yeah, episode 24. So, let's get straight to it. Please, as a special guest, introduce yourself.
My name is Alexis Arralynn. I am a podcast producer My co-host AC Fisher and I, we host 3 shows or co-produce 3 shows. We've got 2 more in the writings, 2 more in the works. That's kind of what I do. I talk about this and that. So y'all have some questions for me. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome.
Oh, she ready. She ready for it. Okay. Let's get right into it. Let's get right to it. So as far as like your story goes, because I know, it's about coping, about PTSD and trauma, and it's about home organization and everything. So please, for our listeners, give us a story, and share with us your story about, like, what have you been through and everything. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, I grew up in a very interesting home, interesting family. I was born and raised into a fundamental Christian, Pentecostal, evangelical Christian family. My family, we didn't just go to church on Sundays. It was an everyday thing. It was a part of every aspect of our lives. So it was church on Sundays twice. It was Bible study Mondays, Bible study Tuesdays, youth group Wednesdays, practice on Thursdays, Friday night movie night, Christian movie night, Saturday night revival. It totally just infiltrated everything of my life. And so my family, we all played music together, and we would travel to other churches or missions where people would invite us to come and play music. So this was kind of my external life, was all wrapped up within this religious group. Like I said, it wasn't just Sundays. It was every day. It was every morning, every noon, night. I was homeschooled. I was kept out of the public education system. We were taught to fear people like police and CPS and, any sort of local public resource. My family, when it really came down to it, anything that involved mental health care or anything like that, anything that was separated from the church, they did not feel comfortable with. So if I ever needed help, I felt like I couldn't ask for it, or I feared the people who could have helped me. So that was kind of our external life, was very much church, ministering to other people. But when I came home, it was a little bit different. My mother, now I don't want to, first of all, I'm going to talk about my mom a lot, but I don't want anyone to feel like I'm throwing my mom under the bus, because she's got some trauma of her own. She's had to manage and learn how to cope with in her own way. And so, but a lot of my trauma and things like that began with her. Like I said, my mom had trauma. And so when she had us children, she started to get very overwhelmed. I didn't see this. I thought my mom had it all together, but the state of our home would reflect otherwise. Our home wasn't a nice home. It was jam-packed full of stuff, full of things. And I think maybe from the age of 7, I was mostly on my own. Cooking for myself, cleaning for myself, doing my own laundry. And if those of you who don't know me, have never seen me, I'm a small person. So if you could imagine a 7-year-old me trying to make a grilled cheese sandwich on a cast iron pan with a gas grill, I mean, that was, it was exciting. But so I went through a lot of neglect. I didn't understand why I lived that way, why we lived that way. I didn't understand why other people had nice homes, why, there was nothing laying out, everything just seemed put together. I didn't know how to do that. And so going on through those years as a mom myself, and kind of in my own head, starting to determine what is okay and what's not as far as the religion and how far it went in my life, I started to kind of rethink some things in my head. And I started to get overwhelmed because I was like, I didn't have a mom who knew much about housekeeping. So I found myself really overwhelmed with my things. I didn't know how to manage my home. And I felt like, gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel embarrassed. And so I just kind of flipped my thinking and started learning about how to keep house, how to put things away, where things go. I didn't know any of that. But all of those things, it was more than just where to put things. It was a very emotional journey for me. And so now I help other people with home organization and decluttering and working with people who have hoarding issues. It's very fulfilling to me to kind of help people kind of get out of that and kind of, retrain their own thinking so that they can provide a safe and comfortable and happy home for themselves.
Okay. That's awesome.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a little bit. There's a lot more to that, but yeah, it's that was the compact little version.
For the introduction, that's good. Yeah.
No, you gave us a lot. So when did you know that the household that you were growing up in wasn't exactly normal?
Well, we didn't have a lot of visitors. My mom didn't like having people coming over. She was anxious. I feel like maybe she was embarrassed, but she wouldn't really outwardly say that. It was weird because she wanted a clean home, but she couldn't really do it for herself. And a lot of that responsibility she placed on us kids. But when you're dealing with someone who has hoarding issues, it's not, you can't just say, oh, come in and clean my stuff. If I come in and help, she also didn't want me to touch anything. And so I understood that it was like an emotional struggle for her.
So
I started to see that when other people would come over and they would, their expressions, they'd be like, whoa, you have a lot of stuff, and I could tell they weren't used to that. And so I was like, oh, I guess we're different.
So it's kind of like an OCD kind of order she has.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, my mom always said to me too, she grew up on a farm. They didn't even have electricity or indoor plumbing until she was 13 years old. And so she always joked about how she had nothing growing up and she didn't know where to put anything. She's like, I've never had any of these things. I don't know what to do with it. So, part of that was just, she didn't know any better either. And so, but yeah, growing up, I felt awkward not being able to have friends over. I noticed my friends feeling uncomfortable in our home. Okay. And so I kind of stopped inviting people over, or I would try to clean the house, in a way that didn't bother my mom or upset her, because she got really anxious when her things were moved around and stuff like that. But it got to a point where if I would clean, it would just go right back to where it was almost instantaneously. Right. And so I got to a point where I was like, I can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. And that was kind of hard. So when I got into my own home, I was like, okay, well, I need to do this for myself and serve myself in a way where I'm not feeling overwhelmed. I love having people come to my home. I'm very hospitable. I like having parties. I like making people feel welcome. I like creating that safe, clean space for people to relax in. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely a long journey for me. It was an emotional and mental journey for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
TC, you have a question?
Yeah, my quick question is, did you ever find yourself follow your mom's patterns at one point?
What was that? Can you repeat the question?
Can you hear me? You guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself falling into the same patterns as your mom?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. But I still do. I still struggle with that. People come into my house, they're like, oh, your house is always so clean. It's like, no, it's not always clean. I still have to do the daily maintenance. I still have to do the weekly and monthly maintenance. It's definitely an ongoing thing. But for me, it starts in the morning. I have to get up out of bed and I have to make my bed. That's how it starts. Once I make my bed, I feel like, okay, my bed is ready for me. First of all, whenever I want to come and lay down, it's there. It's already waiting for me. So that kind of gets me excited in the morning, making my bed. I never did that growing up because it was something we never really did. So making my bed was kind of a turning point, just getting out of bed, because I suffered with depression also. And I noticed that suffering from depression, you kind of just want to stay in bed all the time. But when you make the bed, it's a little bit different. It gets you out of bed, then then it's the next thing. Then it's the laundry. Then it's like, okay, throw the laundry in. And then once the laundry is going, then, okay, what else needs to be done? So I just kind of set a routine for myself that kind of helps keep me going. but I do have to keep myself in check. My kids help though too. Like, Mom, you're slacking in the laundry. I can't find my socks. But they help out too, but I'm glad that I have my kids, I'm okay with my kids saying, hey, it's getting kind of dingy in here. Let's do some work. But more often than not, it's usually me initiating everything, they're kids. So usually they're trying to get out of it, but I'm trying to lead by example though.
That's good. Okay.
So when you left your mother's home, tell me about that initial lifestyle, because I'm imagining by the time you left your mother's home, you weren't in a position yet where you were able to handle the hoarding in a way that I'm assuming you improved with today.
Yes. Okay. So when I left my parents' house, I was 17 years old. I hadn't graduated high school because I was homeschooled. It was very fundamental, very biblical based, very Bible based, not a whole lot of real science. So when I left my family, I really didn't know anything about the real world. So I moved 2 states away I spent about 6 months with my sister, but my sister and we don't really get along very well, so that didn't really last. So about 6 months after that, I was a young adult. I mean, I was a baby pretty much.
Right.
I just kind of dotted from place to place. I didn't really have much. I had maybe one room to myself here and there, or a small little apartment. I'd never had my own space before. So I didn't know. I was used to being in other people's homes, doing things the way that they wanted to. And I was also a nanny and a housekeeper. So I was just used to doing things everyone else's way. I didn't know what my way was. And so It wasn't until I got older and had kids, that's when it really became real, when I had all the stuff. I had all the baby stuff and the closets and the shoes and all the kitchen stuff. And that's when it really started to get overwhelming for me, because it wasn't just my home. It was a lot of emotional things I was going through with my relationship with my family. And I also walked away from my faith at this time. So that I had an interdialogue going on there as well.
Wow, that must have been tough, losing your faith like that.
Yeah.
It was very tough. It was very tough. I didn't ultimately, I didn't walk away until I was in my 30s and I had 4 kids. I'd been married for 13 years and with someone who was also born and bred in the church. And so over time, I just realized, I'm not this way and I can't live this way anymore, because it's actually damaging to me. And so I not only walked away from my family, from the toxic relationships, but I walked away from my religion and my marriage. I literally had no one at that point, because when you're in a fundamental religious group, if you leave your spouse or if you leave the group, you're seen as an enemy, essentially. You're seen as evil, even satanic.
It doesn't sound too dissimilar from the Orthodox Jews, where people that have left their religion have experienced the same hardships you have. The familiar connections that you've developed your entire life, you have to sever for your own self-care, which is a harrowing experience, I'm sure.
It was very difficult, and I couldn't have done it without the support of my counselor, first of all. He held that safe space for me to talk about it. I didn't realize all of these things had been bothering me, the way that I was raised. I had a lot of trauma. I had trauma where my elder brother was having problems with drugs at the time. He's clean and sober now, several years. So congratulations to my brother for that. But at this time, when I was young, he had a lot of issues. And when I had tried to approach my Sunday school teachers about it, it was swept under the rug, and I was actually punished for mentioning any kind of negativity about my family. I was basically ostracized. I was victim shamed. And that was when my mother started neglecting me, was at age 7, because I had done that. I'd embarrassed her. We weren't the perfect family like everyone thought anymore. And so all of these things were building up to that point when I was in my 30s, and I was like, okay, this is all starting to come crashing down and I have to make a change. It was very scary. It was very extreme to leave your family and your friends. I mean, I literally had no one. It was very scary. But now I can say that I'm very proud of myself. It was hard. I feel like I just barely escaped, hurting myself because I just couldn't handle it. I didn't know how to cope without being around my community. I just didn't know how to deal with that. But that's why I started my podcast. My first podcast is called When the Bow Breaks. It's about family estrangement. And so I'd separated myself from my family, and I was like, I don't really know how to do this. I don't know how to navigate not talking to your family. Who does that? No one was really talking about that. So I started a podcast just to talk about it, and I found a lot of support there. And the show is still up. It's live. It's running. You can visit it, wtbb.com. So yeah, check it out.
So
I kind of created another little support group for myself.
we was gonna get to that. We was gonna get to the, the social media info, after.
Right away. She said, "Look,
I was like,
marketing."
Don't worry, get the market even more later on. So,
yeah.
Well, estrangement is one of those things that no one really talks about. It's, how many people do you know who don't talk to their parents or their siblings?
Right.
And
yeah.
And you know what? Please talk more about that, and what advice can you give to them?
Okay. So when I walked away from my family, it was kind of a mixture of things. It wasn't just like, oh, I don't believe what you believe anymore. I don't like you. I'm going to leave. Or you're a messy person. I don't want to be around you. It wasn't really like that. What it really came down to was just the toxic behavior that's enabled and supported by the church. They believe in spanking children. They don't believe in women's rights. They don't believe in public education.
So this is
and things like that. And it was starting to spill over onto my children, that kind of toxic behavior. And that was initially the reason for separating from my family, was to protect them. I don't think I would have done it had I not had children, to be honest.
So can you help me connect the timeline? So you move out when you're 17, you do babysitting gigs. You're still with your family at this moment. When do you get married? When do you start having children? When does that happen?
I got married in 2004, and we were married in my hometown. So I came back. I moved to Seattle. I was in Seattle when I lived with my sister. And then I moved back down to LA, basically where I essentially met my ex-husband. And we got married in the church. And then we moved back to Seattle. And so we had been there since up until, I want to say, 2018. And then we moved back down to California. That wasn't a move that I really wanted to do. We were victims of fires, floods, all of that. And our marriage, because I had gone through so much internal changes and I was starting to break away from the church, up here, and the toxic behavior, I started to break away from my marriage also. And
because
so
he was part of that.
It was just all kind of happened at the same time.
Wow.
It all kind of happened at the same time. So when I left, that didn't really go so well, leaving my ex-husband. I mean, I don't know if any of you have been in relationships where you've had to divorce. It's not easy. It's not fun. There's a lot of emotions that get involved. And so I was basically almost homeless, without my children. And that was scary. But I had a friend who helped me. My co-host, AC Fisher, was there for me a lot. He's also my ex-partner, in case anyone wanted to know.
Wow.
My co-producer and we dated for a while. Yeah, so we're very close. But he was also grown up the same way. So yeah, no, we grew up the same way. And so he was able to kind of help me with the sort of deconversion aspect of things. And he supported me. He was a big support in that way, and was able to kind of get me started with, introducing me to other people so that I wasn't so alone. His family, his friends. I created a whole new network for myself. It's been 2 years since I left my marriage, so it's still pretty fresh. But all of that, dealing with the estrangement from my family, basically one day I had written them a letter and I had explained to them, you know, I've set my boundaries. I've given you my limits, and over and over and over again, you've been disrespecting them. You haven't been listening to me. You're not hearing me. And so I'm going to have to take a break from you. And basically I said, if you want to talk about this, I'd love to talk about this, you know, in counseling with my counselor there. But that wasn't something that they were interested in. That's still not something that they're interested in. And I had brief contact with my parents this past holiday season, but they don't really want that kind of relationship. As far as I can tell, I'm not the daughter that they raised. They don't really know me anymore. Right. And if I don't go back into the faith, basically, they don't want a relationship. So that's just something that I've had to accept. I've already dealt with the grief. That had been several years before I left my marriage. So I estranged myself from my parents, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years before that. And so I was a couple of years in already when I left my marriage from that. So it was like a tandem of things. A lot of my friends were concerned, like, oh gosh, she sounds like she's having a nervous breakdown. She's going crazy. She's left her church. She's left her family. She's left her marriage. But I wasn't having a breakdown. I was just having a reconstruction of my life, that I needed to do in order to stay healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you for your identity, because you had an identity crisis at one point.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I was raised to be a missionary. That was the only reason I was born. I was dedicated to God. Basically, in this sort of faith, they give children to God, to the church, to be raised in the church and to serve in the church. And so that was my identity. I didn't know how to be anything else other than that. I was a singer. I sang. I performed on stage. I was involved in a lot of plays and things like that. And so when I walked away from my faith and my family, I was like, what do I do on Sundays? You know, first of all, what do I do on Sundays? I can't sing this music anymore. I don't believe it. What do I sing now? What do I do? I had to figure out who I was. I didn't even know what I liked. I was taught to dress a certain way, be a certain way, wear certain things, have a certain kind of attitude. So I really didn't know who I was. So major identity crisis for sure. I'm still learning about myself too. But I can say I like myself, who I am a lot better now than I did.
That's good.
For sure.
Hey, I'm getting, I'm sorry, I'm getting calls that I'm getting that you're a little bit laggy a little bit. I'm getting,
okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it in the I'm seeing it on that a little bit laggy, just letting you know. But
okay.
Yeah, we continue. So what's the advice can you give to our listeners? Like, can they see, like, what is it that they can do if they, you know, for like, if they like trauma or PTSD, do you think they should seek counseling or something, or do something that they love, like an activity, like, yeah.
Combination, definitely a combination. Sometimes therapy doesn't work for some people. Sometimes you just need to talk. So talk therapy is great. Find someone who wants to listen to you, somebody who doesn't judge you, somebody just there to listen, not even to give you advice, to hold that space, because you're going to figure out a lot of things yourself just by talking about it. Journaling, counseling helped me for sure a lot. He asked all the right questions. He didn't give me advice, but he asked all the right questions, and that helped me kind of figure things out for myself. So it's good to have somebody like that in your corner. But for someone like me, who was raised in the church and who was a music minister for decades, I had to find new hobbies. I had to find things to do where I felt I was still helping people. So I was like, well, maybe I'm not singing anymore, I'm acting, but I know how to use a microphone. So let's go get a microphone. Then I started my podcast, and talking to different kinds of people who I found were like myself just opened so many doors for me. finding people who are like-minded, finding people who have the same experiences was very helpful. It was very helpful. So yeah, find things that you like to do, try new things, meet new people, talk about it. Don't apologize for who you are. And just, let people know, hey, I'm not finished yet. I'm a work in progress. I've had a lot to deal with and I'm trying new things, so bear with me. But that's kind of the first step. Get good support. If you feel bad every time you talk to a certain friend, or you leave feeling kind of judged, find somebody else to talk to. You don't need that kind of negativity right now when you're going through this kind of stuff. It's life-changing stuff for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Oh wow. The Wi-Fi. Okay.
Are you there,
Okay.
Alex?
There we go. She's back. All right, she's back. There
But
we
she's
go.
muted. She's muted. I can't. Okay.
I don't see her. Where she go?
There we go.
There you
I
go.
mean, there's the internet for you.
Yep.
Okay, there you
Let's
are.
go.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of requests, like, we're getting like, you was kind of laggy a little bit, and they, but you're good now. Yeah.
Like your
You're
audio
good.
is fine, but
Okay.
your camera frees up sometimes.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's what we getting requests from our
Yeah.
end, from our listeners. Yeah, okay.
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 No, thanks,
Nyron
guys.
TC. No problem. Yeah, we in this, we got this. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So my question was, do you remember the day that you wanted out? Do you remember a specific moment where you just said, I couldn't do this anymore and I wanted to go? Can you talk to me about that?
Well, in terms of my family, my counselor had asked a question. I'd been complaining. I was like, they don't listen to me. And I set boundaries and they totally did exactly what I asked them not to do. And then finally he just said, well, how long are you going to let them treat you like that?
Bars.
And I was like, whoa, that kind of hit me. I was like, I kind of am
Say that
tolerating
again.
it. It's like, what now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
He said it. He used to say,
Yeah,
look,
my
Yeah.
counselor said,
come on, son.
my counselor said,
Come on,
yeah,
somebody.
he said,
Come on.
how long are you going to let them treat you like this? And I realized that I was enabling. I was. And so that was when I was like, okay, well, I have to change something then.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I walked away. And with my marriage, that was just something that was fizzled out for, had been several years. I was kind of already on my way out there.
I mean, were you ever in love
so
with him, or was
was
it
really
just
just-
another machination of
About
the
to
church?
ask that. Yeah.
Hold on.
I was.
Hold on.
I think I was.
Hold on, Nyron.
I was,
That,
to be honest. Okay.
no, good. Do your thing. Do your thing.
Okay, yeah. I was very young. I didn't know what was out there. I met my husband at a Christian college on campus. So, I mean, and there it's like, they basically breed you to get married young. There was a whole joke it was called Life Bible College, but they called it Wife Bridal College.
Oh, wow.
So that just kind of gives you an idea of like where my mind was at when I was 19, 20. It's like, I got to get married, right? I got to make these babies for the church. I have to raise my family. That's where my head was at. But I did like him. I got along with him. We were comfortable with each other. We had a lot of fun. He's a pretty easygoing, kickback person. However, he was also raised in the faith, and there were a lot of elements to that just didn't work for me anymore when I realized I'm just not that person.
So was it like a
yeah.
trigger point for you when you seen some of that stuff he's displaying? Did that set you?
Yeah, it was definitely a gradual thing. A lot of it was just habitual because that's also how he was raised.
Oh.
But when I talked to him about these things, he was more kind of like talking about the change, but could never put it into practice.
Oh.
And I really felt like the marriage was holding me back personally. And that was hard. It was hard to walk away from that because I don't like to throw him under the bus. There were a lot of things that just really didn't work in general that had nothing to do with religion or anything like that. The marriage was just done. But it taught me a lot. And he was very supportive in terms of me leaving my toxic family. He didn't like the way they were treating me or my children. when he first met me, when he first saw how my family treated me, he was really kind of put off by that. And he's like, do they always treat you like that? And so he was very supportive in terms of that. But the marriage ending, that was hard for him. But you know, we're on good terms. We're making it work. We meet up when we swap kids, and you know, it's all right.
Okay.
We're all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one day I will say, you know, it's not throwing anybody under the bus. At the end of the day, friend or family, you have to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
The way I look at life is like a book. You write the chapters, and you write how much pages you want in that book.
Right.
That's true.
It's all part of the journey, you know?
Yeah. And I think that was it for me. I was exhausted with keeping up with everyone else's writings about me, what the church expected of me, what my family expected of me, what my husband expected of me. It was too much. I realized, even though I'd worked towards that all my life, I realized, you know, I'm not this way, and I'm going to be very, very unhappy. I'm not going to be a good mom. That's really what did it for me. I was not a good mom when I was in that state. And so I really did it for my kids, but now I really am doing it for myself, because I've seen that it works. I'm not just simply sacrificing myself anymore. I'm really building myself up and correcting those behaviors that have taken a long time coming. Unhealthy coping mechanisms is something that you develop as a child that don't serve you when you're an adult. So you have to kind of unlearn those things. But counseling helps with that for sure.
But what other coping mechanisms do you know now that you could share with the audience?
Well, meditation really helped me. That was something I kind of felt weird about in the beginning, like, oh, meditation, that's something the church kind of speaks against. They think it's weird. But I started it because I had such terrible anxiety. None of the medications or anything that the doctor was giving me was really helping. Either that or it was making me worse. And so I started practicing meditation using the Calm app. They have guided meditations. They have just sounds. They have all kinds of stuff. So that's an app that I use that I really like. But it's a practice. It helped me to remove all of the mess that was in my head. So when you get rid of the mess that's in your head, it's a lot easier for you to get rid of the mess that's surrounding you, like with your home and, you know, things like that. Your home really, I believe it really is a reflection of what's going on, like up here for me. So meditation really helped. Talking to people just different kinds of people. I always find the people who know more than me, who are smarter than me, who can teach me things. I like finding those kinds of people who I want to look up to and be like, learn from them. Those are good ways that I cope, actually, because it gives me that example that I didn't have growing up. So that's kind of another way I cope. I kind of find people who seem to be doing it a little bit better than me, and I try and learn from them. So meditation really helped. Grounding myself when I'm in the middle of a panic attack, it takes a lot of practice. You get shaky. I really do freak out sometimes if I'm feeling unsafe. I have to stop myself and I have to be in the now. I have to remind myself I'm not back in that scary place. That's in the past. My body thinks I'm still there. That's why my body freaks out. I have to tell my body, look, I'm not there anymore. You're here. You're okay. Like, here's a table's fine. It's moving. It's not moving. No one's throwing chairs at you or anything like that. You're okay. You're safe. So I have to look around the room and pick out things just to distract my mind for a minute so that I can refocus. So that's definitely something that is an ongoing practice for me.
All right. So what is your current relationship with God, if you have one? Do you consider yourself an atheist, or is it more of a Protestant relationship?
Well, that's kind of funny, because when I had already kind of exited that faith, like when you're driving in the car, you almost get hit by something and then you immediately start praying, out of habit. Right. I did that for a while, but right now my relationship, I don't really think that if there is anything out there, I haven't seen any evidence of it. So I'm not saying that there isn't. But to me, I don't really think that there is, at least in my life. I've had experiences, definitely. But you can have an experience in any religion. You can have an experience, a spiritual experience by yourself in your room alone. So I had to, to kind of study that and understand that a lot of what I experienced was simply come from grooming and things like that. So right
would you
now,
consider yourself someone that has a relationship with God?
Now. What was
Got
that?
it.
Hold on, Nyron.
Sorry.
Let her finish speaking. Yeah, come on, sis, you got this.
I identify as atheist now. So that's
Got
kind of
you.
what I identify as. But yeah, I just simply don't let religion determine what I need to do in my life. I think that I'm a good person. I know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. But I also know that there's not always right and wrong. Sometimes there's a lot of gray areas. The older I get, the more, you realize there's not always right and wrong. There's a lot of gray areas that you have to kind of figure out and find your own footing and kind of check, your head and find out what you really believe about things. That's still an ongoing practice for me.
Go ahead, Nyron.
No. That's what I was getting at. Like, what would you identify yourself with now? Somebody who's Protestant or maybe somebody who's atheist? You sufficiently answered the question. I'm sorry that I interjected while you were explaining yourself.
I have one thing.
No, that's okay.
I could see why you say that, because it's how you was brought up. You went to church literally 24/7.
Right.
Of course,
Our house was church. Yeah.
You never escaped that Christian reality. So I can understand your viewpoints on why you think like that.
Yeah. It was hard.
Do you think that? No. What I was going to ask, do you think that overabundance of the church was a primary causation for your eventual atheism?
No, I would say it's more that it wasn't like, oh, I had a bad experience, so now I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, okay, so I knew that. Ask a lot of people. I've read the Bible front, back, inside out. I mean, I got a Bible for my birthday every year from my mother. That's what I got for my birthday. So
Wow.
I know the Bible in and out. I went through that process of deconversion and in my own head, I reasoned my way out of it. I just came to the conclusion. I was like, you know what? I just don't believe this anymore. And even if I did believe in it, I don't think I'd want to follow it because I don't like what this God stands for. I just don't. So that's kind of what it came down to for me.
Okay.
And then after, like throughout life, and then it starts like, bring you like, when you got older of the consciousness, you're like, oh, okay, now I see of the God of the side. Okay, so now it's in the consciousness of like, okay, now I see it like, okay, this is God. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. What he is and what he isn't. That was something, because when you're a child in the church, what they do first is they groom you. They say, Jesus loves you. It's the love bombing. It's all these good things. But then it's like, well, if you don't believe in me, you're going to hell. It's like, to me, when you use fear to coerce someone into a relationship, that's abusive to me. That's how I feel. So that for me, that did it for me. I was like, I'm done. I just don't like that. I'm not into that.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
And that, go ahead, TC.
No, I was going to see if Nara had questions because Nara.
I'm filled with questions. I always have.
I know you're always ready.
All right. So one thing, and I always tell all our guests, Nyron is the type of person that's gonna ask you like 50, 100 questions. Like, so
he's a dictionary.
Yeah, he's a dictionary. Yeah. So
I love it.
Encyclopedia never goes off.
Yeah.
You can ask me anything.
All right, so you talked about meditation as one of your coping mechanisms, and you said medication doesn't really work for you, right? So outside of meditation and being around positive people, what else what else could you recommend to other people who might have been experiencing PTSD or might currently go through something that is traumatic?
Well, I would say if you're having a really hard time coping, you can't manage, you really do need to get into counseling, because they can give you tools, they can give you, they can show you how, different ways of coping. See, meditation works for me, but it might not work for somebody else. Somebody else might just need to find something that they can actively do to keep themselves busy while they're learning other ways to cope. In addition to meditation, I had to establish a healthy routine for myself. Like I said before, getting up on time, getting up in the morning, not laying there being anxious about the day. Just get up, make my bed, just get on with it and just, get ready to roll with the punches, I guess. But a healthy routine, that's something that took me a while to work at, but that really helped me. Just having a routine. And so now when my routine gets interrupted, I get a little bit anxious, but I'm learning how to cope with that too. I'm a bit ADD and I'm also on the spectrum. So I like to know what to expect. And so I'm one of those people, my anxiety manifests like, what happened? How long is this going to last? Or what's this, where's this, where's the exits? And, that's what's in my mind all the time. And so I have to constantly say, nothing bad is happening. You're okay. Just breathe, focus on your breath and focus on, what's true. And so it's just kind of like rechecking myself constantly. I wasn't aware of all this. I couldn't really, sometimes something would trigger me and I wouldn't know why it triggered me. I didn't know what triggered me for days. It used to be the smell of hairspray used to trigger me. I didn't know why for a long time. The smell of hairspray made me sick to my stomach. And then in counseling, all of these old memories started coming up. I had blacked out a whole entire year of my life. When I was 7 years old, I didn't think I could remember anything. And in counseling, I realized, well, actually, I do remember when I was 7, but they weren't nice memories. And I realized the reason why I'd been triggered by hairspray was because, I was an 80s child. So before church, we'd all get dressed up and, the hair and everything. And my sister, she'd be having my hair way up to here and like teasing it and the hairspray and everything like that, the Aquanet. But she'd also use the curling iron and she would like burn me, purposefully, like in the neck and things like that. And so that's where that trigger came from. But for years, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. Now it doesn't trigger me. It doesn't bother me anymore because now I can say, well, just because this hairspray is here doesn't mean that I'm going to get burnt with a curling iron,
Right.
So I have to reassure myself. Yeah.
That's a huge sign of progress.
That's one example. What was that?
No, I said that was a great sign of progress. The fact that you were able to cope by using logic to deduce that what you've experienced as a child isn't going to be the same experience now as an adult. Separating your past from your present.
Cognitive thinking. Yeah,
So,
cognitive thinking definitely helps. It's not enough to ask the what ifs. It's like follow them through. When I was afraid of the hairspray, it's like, oh, I don't want to smell it. But it's like, well, what happens if you smell it? You smell it, you don't like it. Oh, well, I don't have to buy the hairspray. But when I smell it, I don't have to get to that point where I'm afraid anymore. But it took time. For years, I didn't know why that bothered me. But it wouldn't have come out had I not had that safe space to talk about it.
And it's okay. It took time, Now you discover what it was.
Yeah.
You conquered it.
Yeah. That was just one. That was just one weird trigger that I had. I have a lot of others.
Diamond?
yeah. So we got questions from our listeners.
Cool.
So the first, so our first question is, how has your trauma affected the way you raise your children with religion?
Okay. So yeah. Okay, good. Because I didn't really touch on this too much. I like that you asked that question because I used to raise my children in the church. It was spanking if you didn't listen. It was, I'm doing this because I love you. It was, we dedicated our children to the church. pushing our kids into ministry, things like that. I was doing all of the things that I was raised to do. And then I saw how it was negatively affecting me. And then I was like, well, I can't do this to my kids. If this is what's happening to me, I got to stop this. It was not easy. It didn't happen overnight. I was very depressed. I didn't know how to discipline my children or parent my children without spanking, because that's all I ever had. I was spanked a lot as a child, a lot. By my mom, by my dad, by whatever was laying around a strap or, whatever. And I didn't know how to raise my kids otherwise. And so I was going through depression. I'd go and like hide in my room if my kids were, getting wild, or I didn't know how to cope. And I didn't know how to parent them without hurting them, which I thought was insane. And so I was like, I don't know how to do this. So I would just like lock myself in my room. I'd call my friend or I'd call my counselor. I don't know how to manage this. And so it was a lot of just calling people and talking to them, having them talk me through it. Because when my kids would get upset, that would trigger me. And the reason why that would trigger me is because when I was a kid and I needed someone, no one was there. And so I did not know how to be there for my children because I didn't really have parents. I didn't have a very good relationship with my dad. And so I did not know how to parent. I thought I did. I thought I had the Bible and that was all I needed. So I stopped the spanking, obviously. I stopped that. And then I started to, in counseling, all of the healthy coping mechanisms that I'd been given, I started practicing. I started teaching my kids. My kids started using the Calm app. They practice meditation in school, which I appreciate very much. My kids go to public school, so I'm, feel good about that. They're getting good education and good exposure and access to counseling. See, I didn't even know, even until my 30s, up until recently, I didn't know that kids could just walk in and go see a counselor at school if they needed to. I didn't know that. And so I feel like my kids have access to the kind of help that I didn't have. So putting them into public school was something that I was really excited to do because I can't do this myself, especially as a single mom. So I really reach out to my community for support in raising my kids in a healthy way.
Okay.
That's yeah. Let's go. Oh, let's go. This is an important conversation, and this episode definitely. It's another TC. You want to take this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to help me on this one though. Hold on. I just lost the Facebook Live.
Okay, so I got it. All right. So the question for a listener, often about the basis of ethics after leaving religion. Why are we here and what are we doing to make life better for others and for ourselves?
Thank you. Yeah, I just found it.
I love that question. I can honestly say, I don't know why we're here. I know that it's a big place. The universe is a big place. And we haven't found a whole lot of other life forms out there like us. So I really don't know what's what, but I find it very exciting and fascinating. And I love science. I love all of the new information that they're coming out with. So I don't have all the answers. I can't remember, what was the second part of that question? Why are we here? And what was the other part of that?
Why are we here? Is it a kind of, how the heck you even pronounce this?
All right.
So I'll have a slow moment. Forgive me.
All right. So the question is, it's like, okay, so why are we here? And what are we doing to make life better for others and for ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, in every day.
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, something that really helped me, and this is one way that that AC Fisher, my ex, really helped me. He's very much feminist. You don't know him. And I was raised in a faith where I didn't even get a paycheck. The paycheck, if I had a job within the church, it usually had to go to my husband because, you couldn't really have women in leadership. And some churches aren't like that. Some churches are very forward thinking, but this one wasn't. So I'm all for the equalization and education of women. I'm very much for that. I'm very pro-choice. I probably wouldn't have had so many children if I wasn't in the faith. And that was also very damaging. You feel like you have to have all these babies, even though it's dangerous. It was dangerous for me. I really had no business having children. It was very unsafe for me, but I felt obligated. And I was uneducated. I didn't know that I could make those decisions for myself. Those decisions were always something that I battled with, choosing heaven or hell. And so I don't have to make my decisions based off of heaven or hell. I make decisions based off what's practical and what works for me and what's safe. So that's kind of how I do things now. But so I'm all for public safety, counseling for kids, peer support groups, honest conversation. I tell my kids, when they get angry, they still think, oh, that's a bad word, or I can't, they don't feel like they're allowed to be angry. I was like, but being angry, there's nothing wrong with being angry. You have feelings. There's nothing wrong with having feelings. It's what we do with them. And so that's something that I'm teaching my kids, so that they don't have to hold everything in like I did. Because in the faith, you're not allowed to acknowledge your feelings. You're supposed to deny yourself. That's something that you're taught. You're supposed to deny any kind of feeling or temptation. You have to constantly deny who you are. And that's something that I didn't want to teach my kids. I want my kids to know who they are. And even if they don't believe what I believe, just honest, open communication, I think, is very healthy for kids and for their development. So I'm all for that for kids. I'm all for education and support women, equal pay, equal, all that. That's very important to me.
Equality.
I think,
Yeah.
Equality.
I think it's
Yeah.
important.
Equality for sure, for everybody.
I think it's important nowadays that people have to listen to children, because we are so often shun them off to the side. Like, you're a child, you got nothing to talk about. What are you talking about? Poopy pants?
Right. You don't know anything. Yeah.
Right.
We used to be children once, and we weren't before. So we'd be just as wrong neglecting them.
Yeah.
The humans at the end of the day as well.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
it's kind of a trip to, to come to that realization, and then in the middle of having my own family, just to flip that kind of thinking. That was a challenge, and it's still a challenge for me. There's still a lot of habits that I'm breaking. There's still a lot of mindset that my kids are still stuck in, that they have to kind of learn to let go. So it's definitely a work in progress for
I have
sure.
one question. When it comes to your family, did you forgive
Mhm.
them, or are you still having that battle of forgiveness for them, for yourself?
I have forgiven, and I like talking about forgiveness, and I'll tell you why. In the Christian faith, you're taught that forgiveness is one way. You basically say it, it happens, you forgive, forget, that's it. But as I got older, I really struggled with that. That was one thing that I really struggled with. I was like, I can't just say I forgive someone. That doesn't work. I say it, but I still feel like they owe me something. And I kept going back to my family thinking that, waiting for them to change their behavior, or waiting for them to make those provisions that I didn't have. I was waiting around for them to change.
Yes.
And because of that, I couldn't forgive. And so what I had to do was I had to release them from the debt that they owed me, because even if they never could repay it, even if they had changed their way of thinking, they can't undo what they had, what had happened to me. They can't change my childhood or my exposure to my trauma or anything like that. So I have to let it go. I can't do anything with it other than use it to help someone else. So I've forgiven them in that sense. However, I'm not going to go back to that just because I've forgiven them. I'm not going to give them room to hurt me again, if that makes sense.
Yes.
If someone steals your wallet, they say they're sorry, they burn it back. I'm not going to let them go near my wallet again, even though I forgave them the first time. I'm going to walk my back the second time. So that's kind of how I am.
Okay.
Right.
All right, let's go, Nyron. So you.
Well, okay. So my follow-up question is, well, you're single now. Are you currently dating anybody? Are you dating anyone?
I'm kind of dating, yeah.
So
yeah.
my question is, how do you prevent your past experiences from leaking into new relationships?
I talk about it. I'm very open about my experience with the people that I date. I point them to my podcast because I talk about it a lot there. I was like, if you really want to know me, like, this is me. I'm a bit messed up, in certain ways, but I'm getting there. So yeah, I'm very honest with people that I date about all of that, for sure, because I feel like if you go into a relationship with expectations of the other person, as well as withholding who you really are, you're setting yourself up for disaster. For sure.
Say that again. Say that again.
It's so true.
Say that
Be
again.
honest.
Say it again. Say it again.
You can't fake it forever. Yeah, you can't fake it forever. You got to be who you are. You have to be real, and you have to let people know that, hey, I'm not perfect. These are the mistakes I make. I'm learning how to cope with it. And so it's like, I can't expect someone to cope with it any more than I can cope, I guess. So, it's slow going, but it's all right so far.
And how has the reception been when you talk about your past? Has it been positive? Have you had guys that you've been dating that, just completely wanted to stay away? How does that work overall?
Well, it's been a little easier, I have to say, because I'm not dating Christians. So it's a little bit easier, to be honest, with the people that I do date. I guess I don't know. I'm open. I'm upfront. And I think what I found surprising is that they're so interested. They seem very interested in how I was raised. There's a lot of questions about the church and like what a typical Sunday was for my family. We talk about, I dated one guy, went and had lunch with him, and he peppered me with questions about the Pentecostal movement. And so we had talks about the speaking in tongues and things like that I'd experienced with my family. They call it being slain in the spirit, where I guess the Holy Spirit supposedly enters you and gives you another language. And this was something that was very heavy within the church that I was raised in. And so they found that very fascinating. Yeah. So they're more interested, I think. I don't think they're worried or afraid. I just think they find it interesting. So I haven't really had any problems. It's not been like, oh, well, you're raised kind of weird, I don't think I can date you. It's just more of like, oh, wow, it's interesting. Now let's go have fun. Let's go on a date.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that's really positive, because I think there might be some people that would, everybody has their own standards. And I would assume that there are some people out there that would have their standards of, I can't deal with anybody with baggage, or I can't deal with anybody that's quote unquote working on themselves. So the fact that you could have that experience with people who are open and receptive can only be encouraging towards your own personal convalescence.
Right. And going in with no expectations is really important, because if you have expectations, you're going to have to be honest with them. If you're going to have the expectations, you need to let people know what you do expect. Because I do have some expectations. I expect to be treated with respect. Yes. I expect to be heard, but I try not to have too many, expectations. I just really focus on getting to know the person, and I don't focus on, is this going somewhere romantically? I more focus on just being in the moment with that person and getting to know that person and valuing that person, because I have a lot of questions for them too. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. We get woo! You get hit with questions. Oh, you get hit with questions. I'm telling you, you get hit with questions. I'm telling you, Alexis, you get woo. Okay. Okay. So the next question they have. So the next question is, do you still have a relationship with your mother? Is it important to have a relationship with a loved one who has caused trauma, or is it okay to let the person go regardless if the person is a mother, father, sister, or brother?
Okay. So that's a loaded question, and I'll tell you why. I love my parents, even though we don't get along. And I love my sister too. My sister was very abusive to me growing up, which is one of the reasons why I left, thinking that when I was 18, thinking it'd be over and done with. It wasn't. And I constantly struggle with that. I have my parents they actually found my show about estrangement. That's how they found me. So they
Wow.
connected with me through the show, which I actually thought was kind of cool. So I was like, okay, my show is reaching the people it's supposed to reach, the estranged community. But it's very minimal. We have very minimal contact. I tried to have conversations with my mother, but like I said, she's so into her faith, and she's so into she has a lot of mental illness. It's very difficult to have a normal conversation with my mother without talking about the church or some sort of Trump conspiracy or something like that. It's really non-existent. I can't really talk to her. It's difficult. I can talk to my dad, but even that sort of strained, we never really had a relationship. And so I've actually gone through something quite recently where I was struggling with that. I was like, do I let this go, or do I just keep waiting? And so I came to a point where I talked to my dad about it, and I said, can we at least just have a private conversation? But he doesn't want to go anywhere without my mom. And that's always been the issue. I've never been able to have a private conversation with my father ever. And so he doesn't really know about the abuse. He doesn't really know about all those things that happened when he was at work. And I don't really know that that's something that I can talk to him about now, because he's older and his health is failing. I don't know how much he can really handle. I'm always struggling with, how much do I tell him? What do I say? And so I left the option open for him to contact me privately. But he told me that he's not really interested in doing that. And so honestly, it hurt. It stung. Even though I had been grieving the loss of the relationship with my parents for years, it was almost kind of like that final nail in the coffin, kind of like, yeah, they're not interested. So, but I told my dad, I said, look, if you ever change your mind, I'm here. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's tough. But it's a function. It's okay.
So you have closure, but you don't have closure.
Right. I don't think I'm ever really going to have, I don't even know if closure really exists, to be honest. I feel like there's certain levels of that.
I'm pretty sure the proper terminology is
reconciliation. I know my dad loves me. But he's still very into the faith, and I have to understand that as well. When you're in that sort of religion, they really believe that if you socialize with people who aren't of the faith, that will cause them to stumble, or that will cause them to walk away from God. So they see it as doing themselves a favor by staying away from me, because they can't rub up against people who are non-Christian, I guess. Okay. So and they really do believe that I'm going to go to hell. And so, and to me, that kind of hurts, that, makes me feel sad that they're always in that mindset, and yet they can't talk to me. So yeah, it's a bit upsetting, but I'm coping with it. Okay. I'm okay. Yeah. And if I ever do feel like I want to say hi to my dad, I do. Whether or not he answers, that's totally up to him. But so yeah, there still is contact, but it's very minimal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nairon. Go ahead.
In terms of passing on trauma, do you believe that you've done a successful job as a mother to preventing those traumas that you've experienced from seeping into the relationships with your children today?
Honestly, no. I made a lot of mistakes before I realized I was making mistakes. And even when I realized I was making mistakes, I was still making mistakes. I still make mistakes every day. But now, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm ever going to be the perfect parent that I want to be, because I'm having to completely change everything I do midway. My eldest, she's 15. She's gonna be driving soon. She's almost, practically an adult. So, her childhood is kind of, on the outs. And my younger kids, they're they don't remember anything about being in the faith, which I feel good about that. I was like, okay, they don't remember any of that stuff. That's kind of nice. I fail my kids every day. I fail my kids every time I have a panic attack that I can't cope with. I lose it sometimes. Sometimes I yell at them. I don't like to yell. My dad yelled all the time. It's very rare that I have to yell at my kids, but it happens sometimes. But that's when I apologize and I tell them, look, I'm sorry I did that. I shouldn't have. This is your mom's problem. This isn't your problem. But this is why your mom gets overwhelmed. Let's try to adjust the situation so it doesn't get so intense next time. So there's a lot of conversation with my kids. I have to be open and honest with my kids. I can't just pretend that I have it all together. My kids have to see me cry sometimes. They do. If they see me together all the time, they're not going to know how to deal with their own feelings. And, if they see their mom going through it, they see their mom's upset, but she's okay. Mom doesn't have parents, but she's still happy and she has friends and, it's okay. They see that. I'm very transparent with my kids in that way. So I think that's the best I can do right now. But from the support that I've had from, other friends and family, I've been told I'm doing okay. So I rely on that a lot. I rely on, my support and my accountability for sure.
I think your candidness about your own imperfections in parenting can be a remedy for improving the relationships that you have with your children in the future. Recognizing that you are not perfect is a huge step forward.
That's because a lot of people don't even realize what they do wrong, and you realize that and you try to correct it. So at the day, it sucks, but at least you know what's happening and you can always better yourself. And you can also see that too and learn how to handle things when they even get older.
Right. And I struggled with that. I was like, oh gosh, this caused so much damage to me and this caused so much damage to my kids. How do I undo this? It's like, I can't undo it, but I can change moving forward from today. So, yeah.
So I just want to comment what someone is into you. So Jennifer and as for Jennifer Lynn, thank you for shout out to you. Thank you for watching this podcast. So yeah, definitely. So what she's saying to you, Alexis, is it's complicated with parents. You've done your part and respects your effort and boundaries. Yes, it is upsetting when religion is a barrier to a good relationship with someone, parents or not. That is what it meant in the question about ethics, because the belief is ethical behavior trumps religion, like pun intended.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's something I still struggle with. I've only been out of the church it's been less than 8 years. And even those first few years, I wasn't really in the community. I was still kind of in my own little bubble. Mm-hmm. I self-isolated for 18 months when I first separated myself from the church. I isolated because I didn't know how to cope. I was afraid to just do normal things like everybody else. I didn't know how to do that. So it's definitely baby steps, for sure. Taking risks, putting myself in situations that used to make me scared. I've learned to kind of step out and realize that it's not as scary as, I was led to believe. It really isn't. There's a lot of good people out there.
So I have a question. I want to get to now. Let's get deep let's get very deep. And a lot of us do suffer trauma because of it's in our eyes, in the television, in news, especially in recent events, what's going on. So coping with trauma, what advice would you give to people, especially that they see it in their eyes and it's like they want to escape it, but in the world they just see it everywhere. So what advice would you give to them?
I used to see things that way. I used to see things very black and white. I used to think the world was a really scary place. But really, you have to put yourself out there. You're not going to know until you go out and do it. I went to a painting class once. I'd never been to a painting class before. Just that was a big step for me. Rubbing up against people, you know, on a Sunday, I went to a painting class. That was a big step for me. But I did that and I met some really interesting people and I had a new experience that I valued and I treasured. And so I try not to let my fear motivate me, if that makes sense. So there's not, you know, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a mental health professional. I can only share from my experience, but I'm constantly struggling with my insecurities and my fears. I have to let my mind make my decisions instead of my fears. And all my fears come from past experiences. So again, I have to ground myself. I have to remind myself of where I am and what's actually happening. And understand the difference between being unsafe and just being uncomfortable. That's something I'm definitely learning the difference of right now, for sure. So yeah, baby steps, just go out there, meet new people, talk to people. Don't apologize for the way that you were raised. That's part of your experience. That's unique. And even though I was raised in a way I would raise my children that way, I did gain a lot of positive experiences from that. It wasn't all bad. I had a very interesting life. I met some interesting people, had some interesting experiences. So, you know, I don't hate everything anymore. I don't have I'm not full of bitterness. I simply just kind of go on about my day, realizing that I'm not exactly like everyone else, and that's okay.
You definitely dropping gems on on this episode. You definitely dropping the gems on them. I'm telling you, definitely. I'm telling you. I hope someone is definitely getting something from this. And definitely I hope someone is feeling inspired. Like, hey, I'm definitely getting something from this today or from this podcast. You definitely dropping some gems on them.
He's definitely
yes. All right.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as like, you know, your fear, and I know because I know Nairon got more questions for you, and then after that, because I know we're gonna be pressed on time. So as far as like fear goes and anger, let's say, like, you know, when you want to talk about the bitterness, the anger. So let's say like you're mad all at the world. And even though you answered the question, what's the small steps that someone can do like switch that mindset of bitterness and anger as they have, you know, for the world? Yeah.
It's a process. It's definitely not something that happens overnight. There's a lot of little light bulb moments. There's a lot of little realizations. It definitely isn't something that I could just drop overnight. The bitterness is easier to let go of over time because I've found other things that make me happy. I don't have to be angry at the things that didn't work. Now I can be happy about the things that do work. So there's not a lot of room for bitterness in my life anymore, if that makes sense. So yeah, filling your life with things that do serve you and that do promote a healthy lifestyle can definitely curb that bitterness. They really can. When you expose yourself to other things, it's going to distract you from all that other stuff. You're eventually going to grow out of it. But what I do when I'm angry, this is really fun. I call my friend Jason because he's a safe person I can be angry with. And so I can be angry because he thinks it's funny. When I get angry, it's entertaining for him. So he gets something out of it. So I call him, I deal with my anger, but he also asks me those questions like my counselor asked me. He asked me all this, well, why, and this and that. It's like, okay. He just kind of helps me through the process. It's like, it's okay to be angry. And he just kind of sits with me while I'm angry, while I'm kind of tossing things out in my head. And I really appreciate that. Everybody needs a friend that they can call when they get upset and vent without any apologies or without any judgment. That is very valuable. So anyway, thanks, Jason.
I agree.
Shout out to Jason.
Jason.
Yeah.
Really? All right. Myron is go ahead. Go ahead. So you and
Yo, Ty.
Well, yeah, my only other question, because again I have a plethora of them, but I think the most important one that I want to ask is, what are your plans for the future? What are your future goals?
Oh, well, I love what I'm doing right now. And that's podcasting. That's talking to all different kinds of people, meeting people from all walks of life. I have another show called What I Like About You, where we talk to all different kinds of people. See, as a Christian, I was limited to only that Christian group of people. So I didn't really know anybody outside my faith. So podcasting has really kind of come out of my shell. I don't know if anyone can tell, but public speaking is actually a fear of mine.
No, we can't. You're doing a great job of that.
Me
can't
right
tell at
now,
all.
you ace at this, so. Hello.
Not
okay,
her.
she forgot.
Yeah.
Okay, here we.
I
You were
really
breaking
didn't start
up,
talking until I
Alexis.
started
Alexis, you was
podcasting, to be
breaking up.
honest.
Alexis, I'm sorry, you was breaking up. Can you say that
Yeah.
again? I'm sorry.
It's frozen
Yeah,
time.
you was breaking up.
Okay, sorry.
Do we need to repeat
Am I good
ourselves?
now?
Alexis, can you hear us?
Uh-oh.
Is it all right?
Oh, she
Hear you.
time traveling.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm
all right.
still here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I love what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
We love what
Okay. Yeah, I'm podcasting. Like I said earlier, 3 shows, 2 in the works, 2 more being written. I love doing that. I feel like it's work that feels natural for me. So I love doing that. But I also work in advocacy for domestic violence and sexual assault survivors. I also do that. So I kind of dabble here and there. Where I see myself is I see myself still podcasting. I see myself still helping other people and just pursuing happiness for myself and promoting a healthy lifestyle for myself and for my kids.
So what
I
is
really don't
happiness
have a
for
whole
you?
lot of expectations for myself. I really just want to enjoy my life and experience it to the fullest. And I value everyone I meet. I love meeting new people. So that's something I'll always be doing, I think.
So what does
That's
happiness
dope.
mean for you then?
What was that?
What does happiness mean for you then?
Happiness, honestly, there are things that can facilitate happiness. Sure, you get happy when you have a fun day with a friend. You get happy when someone gives you a nice gift. But for me, happiness is really a state of mind. It's an attitude that I have to. I can be happy anywhere, I've learned. I can also be afraid anywhere that I've learned. So I think with happiness, it's the same thing. Happiness is something that I have to practice. And happiness was something that I actually didn't experience until I was in my relationship with AC. We actually both were like, are we happy? Is this what being happy feels like? We didn't even know. And we understood it. Yeah. We weren't just happy because we were in a relationship. We were happy because we understood ourselves a little bit better and where we felt like we found what we needed to do in our lives. And I think that's really where it's at. When you know what it is you want to do or need to do, you feel like you find your place. That to me makes me happy. Helping other people makes me happy, for sure. Definitely.
Well, that's it for questions for me. I'm done.
I have a quick question. How long have you been podcasting for?
2 years, actually. I just celebrated my 2nd anniversary for the show When the Bow Breaks. We just had our 2nd anniversary, March 30th. So it's only been 2 years.
Okay.
Wow. So
Yeah.
your podcast
I'm
is
so
older
proud
than
of the
us.
baby.
Yeah. Gotta be like you.
Absolutely, yeah. And I love the fact that you said podcasting is like something that you express. That's something, and I love it to, like you said, podcasting is something that I love to do, and that's something that we love to do also. And I love also the fact that you said podcasting is something that like I can really like get my head straight and just go at it. Like I just love that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I had some production experience when I was in the church. So I didn't come into it knowing zero. I just didn't know how to put a podcast up there. I didn't know about RSS feeds and all that. But AC knew a little more than I did. So he taught me everything I know. So, props to him. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Awesome.
All right. Guys, any more questions?
No, I'm clean.
I'm good.
Oh, not wrong. You clean? That is surprising.
Okay, so I have a surprise. I have a surprise, actually. We were talking about home organization, and I thought I would come and give everyone a tip. So I thought I would do something and go out on a limb. I'm going out there out of my comfort zone. I'm going to do something kind of risky and maybe a little controversial. I'm going to show you how I fold my underwear because I'm really passionate.
Well, huh?
Is that all right?
Wait.
I fold my underwear on my Facebook Live.
Let's rewind back real quick. Let's go back. Hold on.
So don't worry, it's nothing super sexy or anything. I'm a single mom. I don't have anything.
Oh man, I take back my all right.
No,
This is the first.
No, it's really funny because I'm actually very passionate about this one thing. I don't like not knowing where anything is in my underwear drawer. I was in a relationship where we shared an underwear drawer. So I was like, how do we make sure nothing gets mixed up? So a little tip, if you don't have drawer dividers or anything like that, you can just use a cardboard box like this. This literally sits in my drawer. And so all my underwear is like folded and it's all lined up. I can see everything. So how I fold it, here's like a nice little black thing. So I'll fold it like this. So these are kind of like, so it's like halfway like this, and then you're done. So it's just
an underwear folder too. I get it.
Yeah, no, it gets like it's a cluster. I don't know if I can say on Facebook, but I don't like clutter. I like being able to open my drawer, grab what I need. Kids need to go to school. I don't have time to be late, so
Yeah.
I serve myself by making sure my underwear drawer is organized.
Okay.
That's one way how you serve yourself. Do the work. Do the work ahead of time.
Okay.
Now, you know what? As for home organization, right? I want to go back to when you said home organization was your meditation.
Mm.
Can you please explain that to our listeners? And that way it can be like maybe my home can be my meditation also. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
when I first started to kind of declutter my own home, it was very overwhelming. So each item that I had, it was kind of a little mini emotional process. Why do I need this? Is this good for me? Do I even have room for it in my life? I had to ask myself those questions. And so moving from underwear or seasonal items, I started to ask myself those questions about the people in my life. Am I getting something out of this relationship? Do I have room for this kind of relationship? Do I have time? Things like that. So it really was, cleaning is definitely a meditation for me. Just asking myself those little questions. But now, it's kind of fun. When I'm doing my daily maintenance, I'll turn on my music. I've got my headphones on and I'm doing squats in the kitchen. I'm I'm having a good time. I enjoy it. It's fun for me now. I really enjoy it. Something that used to be really scary and overwhelming is actually fun. So, but it's about my attitude. I changed my attitude and I made it fun. So doing dishes, figure out a way to make it fun. We're all creative human beings. You can do it.
Alexis, he was breaking up a little bit just now.
Alexis, you was breaking up. Can you rewind back when you said about cleaning and doing dishes and everything?
Make it fun. Make it fun. I turn on my music and I do squats. So I kind of work out while I'm cleaning. So I serve myself while I'm serving myself, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Figure out a way to make it fun. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bring a
Yeah,
positive
absolutely.
attitude to anything. Yeah.
And start small. Don't look at the big mess. Just look at what's in front of you. Start with one drawer, start with one cabinet, and go from there. Give yourself breaks, and then reward yourself for those things.
Okay.
So yeah.
Mhm. All right.
Let's go. All right. Nairon,
Yeah.
you sure? No more questions?
I got none. I think I'm good. I'm good.
That's a new record.
All right.
All right.
It is a new record. Definitely. Wow.
I don't even know what time it is.
TC.
I'm good
TC.
here. I'm good here. I just
Okay.
This episode is definitely gonna make people realize what traumas they facing and maybe never realize it. And they're gonna sit down
Right.
in the mirror like, yo, excuse my French, I got fucked over 2 years ago. Hold on.
No, really, yeah.
Yeah, so
Sure, for sure.
yeah, definitely good information we had today. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Definitely thank you for that. Before you get to your final thoughts and how can they reach you and everything, TC, is there anyone in the comments that have any more questions?
Nope. We're good.
Nope, no more questions.
Jennifer Lynn is just saying thank you for everything. You've been great.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Yep.
Oh,
Laugh
let's
at that.
go.
But yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So for closing out, is there anything final thoughts? And how can, I know you've been talking about your podcast, like, how can, what's the link, everything, your social media, everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, where can they find you, everything, your information?
Okay. Well, the easiest way would probably to visit our mama site, I guess you would call it, is kingfishermedia.ca. That's Kingfisher, FICS or FICS. I'm very dyslexic. Kingfishermedia.ca. I will make sure that there's a link in the comments, or we'll make sure links are in the show notes. You can also visit WTBB.com. That's my show about family estrangement. You can also listen to What I Like About You podcast at likeaboutyou.com. That's another show that we have. But if you go to that site, you'll find your way around to all of our Instagram, Twitter. We're basically everywhere. So Kingfisher Media, that's where you want to go to find out where I am and what I'm doing. So yeah, or you can follow my page on Facebook too. I'm there. Yeah. Pinterest. I'm on Pinterest, Alexis Arralynn. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Definitely have
Let's
that
go.
description. So
Let's go. Definitely.
yeah.
And your final thoughts, like just express yourself. Final thoughts.
Well, first of all, thank you for listening to my story. It's not easy to talk about it sometimes, but I really appreciate people who are listening. I'm just a normal person. If you want to talk to me, you can send me a PM. I love talking to new people, so do that. You're not alone. You might feel like you're the only one having to deal with this, or you might feel like you don't have a lot of support. You have support. You know me now, so I'll get you going. I have a lot of resources. I can plug you into a life coach if you need one. I know lots of people, so come find me, come talk to me. But forgive yourself for your imperfections. Forgive yourself for not knowing what to do when you needed help. Forgive yourself for not being the person that you saw yourself being. And just accept yourself now and love yourself enough not to stay that way. Love yourself enough to go and try new things and to meet new people, because it's going to enrich your life. Don't let your fear be the driving force in your life, would be one thing that I would say, because that was the driving force in my mom's life. And I can see how that made my family miserable. And so fear is not something that I have a whole lot of room in my life for anymore. So that may be one thing.
Beautiful.
But other than that, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for everything. Like, seriously, you was dropping gems on them. Definitely. So yeah, you was definitely dropping gems on them. Like you definitely your thing on this one. Like, yeah.
Well, I'm glad. It's a good show.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is episode 24, DC Incentives podcast. You can so this is gonna be a replay on Anchor. If you'd like to support the podcast on Anchor, you can just click support on Anchor Anchor FM. I'm sorry, Anchor the FM. Yeah. Spotify, Apple, if you'd like to, Apple Podcasts, give a review. It's gonna be on you. This is gonna be on YouTube. I can catch the replay. But yeah, definitely, Alexis, you was great. Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. I had fun.
Thank you again.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Well, that's episode 24. And so is there anything else you gotta say before we close this out?
Ron, you smiling?
No, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that Alexis, you were able to share your story. I do have more questions about being on the spectrum and stuff, but I think that's a whole nother 2 hours that we can go through,
Yeah.
Nyron,
we still have time. You know that.
We do. We have time. Do we have time?
Yeah.
All right. One quick question. All right. So, when did you find out that you were on the spectrum? What was that like?
When I went to counseling and I was starting to explain, I'm overwhelmed with this and I'm overwhelmed with that. And she asked me a lot of questions, and I found out that, I have sensory processing issues. I don't like being in really crowded places, noisy places. I like knowing what to expect. The way that I process information is different than most people. Obviously, I'm very verbal, but I used to be very quiet and very timid, very shy, didn't really understand a lot of social cues. I still miss them sometimes. So I'm definitely not, they haven't said that I'm full on autistic, but she definitely told me that I'm on the spectrum. So there definitely are a lot of characteristics about that, but I'm still learning about those because I never had counseling or therapy or anything like that growing up. So it's still something that's very new to me that I'm still learning about. So I don't have a whole lot of information, but I have experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right. That's it, Nyron?
That's it.
Anything else?
That's it. I promise. That's it.
You're like, the last shotgun shell ready. Like.
All right. Alexis, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Again.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Thanks for.
That's episode 24, y'all. So
catch you later.
We are out.
All right.
Nice.
Hey, it's Nikki Billions with Nikki Billions Bling Boutique. I'm an independent fashion consultant. Allow me to help you accessorize your next event. My pieces range from statement pieces to simple pieces to bling pieces to pearl pieces. Allow me to help you give them something to talk about. Visit my website. It's www.paparazziaccessories.com/Nikki Billions.